Welcome back to Devi Daily Yoga and welcome to day number 2 of the 14-day Yin Reset. Today's practice is focused on the lower body and the hips, and we're going to start out at the wall, which is why I have my mat this way. And so we'll start out at the wall and then we'll move to the floor. If you don't have an easy wall space to practice with, you could do this with the edge of a bed instead or the edge of a sofa. So we're going to start in legs up the wall pose. Lie down on your side to get into it. And nestle your sitting bones right up to the wall and then swing your legs up. So this way we can have the sitting bones right up against the wall. And if that's too intense for you to have your sitting bones right up on the wall, then you could scoot away from the wall so that it feels okay. We're going to start with 2 minutes here, resting in legs up the wall pose. If you're using a sofa or bed, then your knees might be bent with your shins and calves on the furniture, and that is just fine. Spread your arms out to either side in a T and enjoy this gentle stretching of the lower back, backs of the legs, as we prepare to stretch deep into all parts of the legs, the thighs, the hips. Let's take a deep breath now into the hips, the lower back, the hamstrings. And exhale and feel this whole area softening. Continue to breathe and feel yourself relaxing even more with each exhale. Noticing what you're bringing to the mat today. And whatever's here, welcoming it, welcoming all parts of yourself, welcoming all parts of your life. Breathing in deep and breathing out. And now we're going to move into butterfly at the wall, taking the feet together and opening the knees outward. And your feet can come down. You don't have to keep your heels together. As you can see, mine like to come apart. You can play around with whether your feet are higher up or lower down. And you can also scoot your hips away from the wall if that feels better. Some people like to use the hands and press the knees if that feels good, or if you want to just rest your arms on your belly or out at your sides. Breathing steadily, resting your lower back, resting your spine. And now slowly coming out of this, changing to a wide foot position, which can be your choice of frog pose like this, feet flat on the wall, or dragonfly pose with the legs extended and opening wide. And there's kind of a whole range of poses in between, like a dragonfly with knees slightly bent, or frog with legs a bit straighter. So think of this really as one pose that's different amounts of bending of the knees, and find a place anywhere in there that feels right for you. At this moment, the inner thighs will most certainly be feeling something here. Taking a deep breath in and relaxing as you exhale. And slowly now, bending the knees, rolling over to one side, very slowly coming up. Making your way onto the floor in child's pose. Taking a rest, a rebound time in child's pose after all that wonderful wall stuff. Now let's come up to hands and knees and take it into dragon pose with the right leg forward. And here we stretch into the front of the thigh, the front of the hip. So the target area of this pose is the left leg. That's your back leg, the front of the thigh, and the front of the hip. You could have the hands on either side of the front foot, or both hands on the inside of the foot, or you could do a little bit of a twist, right hand on the knee. And once you've found the pose that you want to settle into, once you've found your angles, your general shape, take a deep breath right into the hips, right into the hip flexors. And exhaling, softening through the front of the hip, the front of the thigh. If there's discomfort in the wrists, you can come down onto the elbows and forearms, or you can use yoga blocks and rest your elbows on yoga blocks. Continue to breathe. And slowly releasing dragon and coming into the half split pose here, shifting the hips back, walking the hands back to support you. Feel free to use yoga blocks under your hands and drawing the right toes back. Here we're stretching into the hamstrings, back of the thigh. Taking a deep breath into your lower back, into the back of your leg, and as you exhale, relaxing, releasing tension in this area. And slowly releasing, bringing the knee forward again, tuck the back toes and step back to take downward dog. Walking the dog, pressing one heel down and then the other, feeling the difference between the two sides. Right hip, left hip. And dropping the knees, taking it into the second side, dragon pose, left leg forward. Choosing your variation, once again, hands on either side of the foot or both on the inside, or the little twist, left hand on the knee. Feeling the length now in the front of the right hip, the front of the right thigh. And we can also welcome the sensations of a kind of a one-sided back bend here and soften around the sacrum, the lower back. Inhaling into the hip, into the low back, into the front of the thigh. Exhaling, and maybe the hip softens down a little more toward the earth. and releasing. Dragon, moving it into half split, shifting the hips back. Hands can come back to a comfortable place to support you. Blocks under the hands if that makes the pose easier for you, or if that takes weight off of your wrists in a welcome way. And softening over the leg. And feel free to let the shoulders and head relax. Sometimes a straight spine is emphasized in this pose in other forms of yoga, but here in this yin-like practice, we can really let things be quite a bit softer in the upper body. Breathe. Inhale and exhale. And just releasing, bending the front knee. Once again, tucking the back toes. Step back into downward dog, walking the legs. Feeling now both legs, both hips after those two poses. And we'll take it down into child's pose to rest for 1 minute. You can choose knees narrower or wider. And enjoying this contact of the forehead to the earth. Welcoming all the sensations in the body, the hips, the legs, the thighs, after all the things we've done so far in today's practice. All of this energy, this very grounding kind of leg, earth energy, connecting here with the earth through the hands, forehead, legs. Slowly now coming up to hands and knees and taking it into sleeping swan pose with the left knee forward. And we'll turn the shin. You can have your foot higher up here, and you can also have it farther back or anywhere in between as we come forward over the leg. And the target area of our stretch is the left buttock, left outer hip. You might rest on your elbows, or you might come down onto your forehead and stretch your arms out, or rest your forehead on top of stacked hands. Feel free to use props, pillow under your outer left hip, block under your forehead. welcoming this earth energy as you inhale your breath right from the earth and exhale like you're giving back to the earth, creating this energy loop, this feedback, feeding loop with Mother Earth, with the source. Slowly coming up and coming now into square pose. We're going to sit over onto the left hip, just bring the back leg around to the front, cross the ankles or shins in front of you and come forward with the idea of stretching now into the other hip, which will be your right hip, outer hip, buttock. Options here are if you want less sensation or if you just need a lift under your seat, you can place your cushion under your seat. If you want more sensation, take your right ankle on top of your left knee and then come forward. Some people don't need to come forward here to feel the stretch, and that is an option as well. Staying upright, maybe that's a lot of sensation on your hips that feels good, and that's where you want to stay. And some people like to rest their forehead on support, so your blocks, if you have them, could be stacked up to support your forehead, or you could rest your elbows, forearms on your blocks. Use the props if you have them. You can stay here, or a variation for the second half, if it feels good in your body, is to bring the knees on top of each other for shoelace pose. If this doesn't feel good, doesn't do anything for you, just go back to square. This is just an option. They're all for the same target area for the outer right hip. And now releasing and coming into one more pose on this one side. We're doing this kind of epic one-sided thing. We're keeping the knee in that half shoelace pose and coming into this half shoelace position, bending forward over the leg. And this is really just a variation of our half butterfly pose. We're crossing right knee on top of the left. The right foot is just next to the hip on the left side. Hands can be on the floor or the foot, whatever works. And here our target area changes to the back of the left thigh. For some people, sitting on a cushion will make all the difference here, so try it out if you want. And wherever you are, let's take a breath in, fill the spine, fill the body, and as you exhale, relax and release into this position. Slowly releasing and taking both legs in front. Come to rest on the back. We'll rest for 1 minute before we venture to all that wonderfulness on the other side. Spreading out in whatever position's comfortable, feeling the sensations in your legs, your hips. Bend your knees, hug them into your chest. Gently rock side to side and roll to one side to come up for sleeping swan on the second side. We've got the right knee forward now, left leg is behind. 2 minutes in sleeping swan, propping yourself as needed. If you have any discomfort or pain in the knee, then that's a sign to do the pose differently, which could mean leaning over onto the right hip and bending the back knee, keeping the torso higher perhaps, or re-angling your torso, or even re-angling this front leg. Target area to stretch is the right glutes. Wherever your body is settling, once you're there, breathe in to the hips. Breathe out. And slowly come up and into square pose, sitting over onto the outer right hip. Bring the back leg around to the front and cross the shins in front of you, coming forward or staying upright. Or if you want that more intense version, take the left ankle on top of the right knee, come forward. Use a cushion under your seat if that makes the pose work better for you. Use a cushion under your forearms or blocks under your forearms or forehead. And get yourself into a place that feels supported, comfortable. Breathing into the shape that your body is in. the option to tighten it up, left knee on top of the right for our last minute here. If that doesn't feel right, of course, don't do it. Move back to the square pose. Remembering that these variations exist not because we're supposed to master them all, but because we all have different anatomy. There's all these different ways that different people want to stretch into their hips. Find one way that works for you. That's all you need, one way. And slowly releasing. And now our half shoelace pose, taking the bottom leg, right leg straight out in front, keeping the left knee up and over and coming forward. And ooh, this is my tight side, so that's about as far as I go. Blocks in front of you can help under your hands and forearms, or a cushion under your seat, or all the props. Breathing as you settle deeper into the pose, allowing the exhalation to carry you into your experience. And slowly releasing, slowly coming down onto your back. Come into Shavasana, final relaxation. Spread yourself out, spreading arms and legs nice and wide. Take a deeper breath into your belly, into your heart. Exhaling, stretch out your arms and legs, interlace the fingers, press the palms up and away as you stretch down long through your feet. And this is where we'll end it today. Thank you so much for joining me. Once again, congratulating yourself on day number 2 of the 14-day yin reset. Put a comment down below, say you did it, say I was here, and I look forward to seeing you next time for day number 3.